We planning on advertising.
Okay.
This project should begin advertising on Central Auction House and in the Daily Comment in the next couple of weeks.
Go through the schedule when it gets to. All right, so project location, LaRose, Louisiana. It's basically a relocation of a pump station. We're getting our funding through GOMESA via CPRA, and it's a bit of property that we actually own in that area. This being the view from above that you can take a look at. So the good news is we're constructing in the dry. We're tying into an existing channel. There's actually been some site work done since this satellite picture was there. It shows how it ties things together using the pointer. I'm assuming you can see my pointer since I'm sharing the screen. Oh, it's going to be on this side. You can see the pointer as a canal here. It's going to tie into Reservoir Canal here and bring the two systems together with a little severability between the two. Again, it's 450 cubic feet per second pump station. This is the Blackwater Canal here that the pump will discharge into. And we've got another couple of screens to kind of give you some typical sections through the center line of the pump station, which you're looking at here. I think we want to kind of give you some ideas from the notable quantities. So, things of interest is 834 cubic yards of structural concrete for the subfloor, 4,000 linear feet of concrete piles for the sump. Let's see, we've got a 910 square foot hot dip galvanized steel trash screen, 125 foot of sheet pile seepage cutoff wall. You've got 1,400 tons of riprap that's going to be involved in applying 2,850 square yards of geotextile fabric. Your 1,210 linear feet of steel pipe piles, 18-inch diameter, and 1,900 cubic yards of sand. Arthur can give you the schedule for us.
Well, we've completed the design, the review. We've received our concurrence of CPRA, which is helping fund the project. I mentioned we plan on beginning the advertisement of the project probably in the next 2 weeks. We'll dates with the idea of taking bids sometimes in early May and awarding the project thereafter. And our construction time on the project is 365 days.
And that's really all we have on the project. I'll just squeeze back to the to this screen just to leave it there. I know just to be mindful of your time, we try to keep it very brief. But again, I ask that the contractors keep an eye out because we have quite a bit of projects brewing. So that's all we've got to present, Jock. If you want to take the screen back or whatever way you want to do this.
Sounds good, Dwayne and Arthur. Thank you all very much. I'm going to move into agenda item 2B. I've got Reggie Dupree and David Boudreau to present on the Morganza to the Gulf Reach H1 and then the Homa Navigation Canal Lock Complex. It's actually the next agenda item there too. So if the guys at Delta Coast and Mr. Reggie, if y'all can take control and share your screen, I'll confirm that I can see and y'all can roll right in. All right, David, we can see you. And yep, you're now in presentation mode. And make sure you're off of mute as well.
Can you hear us?
Hey there, I can hear y'all now. Can y'all hear me?
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just do a few preliminary comments and then I'll give it to David for the details of all these projects. So go to the next slide. We're showing the whole map, David. So that's the overall map of Morganza to the Gulf. Of course, 98 miles. It's in 3 levee districts, 70 of the 98's in Terrebonne. we gonna be discussing, one of our main priorities locally, funded with some help from CPRA, is to go back and do second and third lifts of levies to a +15 between the 5 bayou communities in Terrebonne, between Bayou Du Large and the parish line and Point. We have let some of those projects already for bid. Some of them are on the list in the next year or so. So, and then David will come in after he'll discuss the levies. We'll talk about the HNC lock complex, which should start bidding very soon, within the next month or so, which, by the way, is probably the largest public works project in the history of Terrebonne Parish. So this is, I guess, what I would consider a mega project. So David, you want to just go into the details of the levy projects that we're going to be bidding out soon?
Sure. So I know the title said reach H1, however, we do have several projects that will be coming out in the next, say, 12 to 18 months in order to lift the existing levees. The first project is the Reach B levee improvement project. We're going to be going up to an elevation of +8. The design will be complete later this year, and it's going to be approximately 200,000 cubic yards of hauled-in material. And we plan to bid that sometime mid to late 2024 as part of this project. Now, these levee sections that we're going to talk about go from west to east. So the Reach B levee is located just west of the Bayou Du Large Ridge. So that's the first project that we have coming up. Another one is Reach E, which is actually Reach E segment 3, which let's see if you can see my cursor here. So we have 2 water control structures along the existing Reach E. Reach E segment 3 is from the second water control structure all the way to the Houma Navigation Canal. This levee is currently probably somewhere around a 10 or an 11, and we are proposing to bring that up to a +15 elevation. We need about 165,000 cubic yards of hauled-in material. The design is complete, and we do anticipate bidding this mid to late May of this year. The next one is Reach G1, which is actually located adjacent to the future lock complex and the existing Bubba Dove floodgate, which is right here in the middle of the Houma Ave. G1 is a stretch of levee that extends to the east. It is currently at about a 13.5-foot elevation, but we do plan to raise this up to approximately 15, and it's going to take about 31,000 yards. We do plan on bidding that out later this year, and we may possibly include this as an add alternate to the next project, which is part of G2A, which G2A extends from G1 and proceeds in a southeast direction to the 4-point road. This levee also is somewhere around +12 elevation. We plan to go up to 15. We estimate an additional 100,000 cubic yards. Design is complete, and we plan to bid that later this year. Project in the fall, so sometime after September, October. G2B is the next section, which extends from 4-point road down to the Bayou Sally Road. Once again, this levee is currently probably somewhere around 11 or 12. We're going up to a +15 elevation. We're going to need about 180,000 cubic yards of material, and this is all hauled in borrow material. The design is complete, and we will bid that out later this year also. Next, we have the H2, H3. So now we are moving, I guess, in a northerly direction along Bayou Petit Caillou. The Cocodrie floodgate is here at when my cursor's circling next to the star. We actually have the ability here to dredge and stockpile a significant amount of material for these 2 sections, which extend from Cocodrie north to Bush Canal. So we are estimating approximately 700,000 cubic yards of dredge material will be available. And we're going to break this into 2 projects. One's going to be the dredging and stockpile, which we will bid that out this fall. And then phase 2, a year later, or 6 to 8 months later, what we're gonna do is come back in and place and shape this material to raise these 2 sections of levee up to a +15 elevation.
So we're bidding both H2 and H3 together, but in 2 phases. In other words, one contract will be for the whole 6.5 miles, right?
Yes, that is correct. And the main reason for us trying to dredge this section and get as much material out as we can is that these 2 segments are essentially an island. So we either have to barge material to them or we have to dredge what's available in place. We do anticipate all of this is going to be mechanical dredging and then stockpile, and then we'll place it and then shape it on top of the levee. Then we'll continue north from Bush Canal, which is where I'm circling currently on I guess the bottom end of the picture. And we're going to proceed northerly all the way up to Humble Canal, which is around the green dot on the top part of the page here. We have lower reach I levee improvement. We're going to go up to a +15. This is going to be hauled in. We have the ability to haul it in, so we're going to haul it in here. So it's going to take about 730,000 cubic yards. We estimate to get this levee section up to about a +15. We do anticipate bidding this out late 2023. And then upper I, which goes from the Bayou Terrebonne floodgate, which is right here in the middle, all the way to the top. This is going to be sometime mid-2024 of a levee lift to +15, and we do anticipate somewhere around 1.1 million cubic yards of hauled in material for this levee section. And then we do have reach J1, which is located in Pointe-aux-Chenes. This is probably the oldest section of Morganza levee that was constructed back in 2007, I believe it was. So it's currently somewhere around a +10 elevation. So we do plan on building this up to a 15, and it's gonna take about 250,000 cubic yards. And we should be sometime early 2024 is when this should go out to bid. And then the final levee project we have is the Reach K levee improvements project. Reach K goes from Pointe-aux-Chenes, the Bayou Pointe-aux-Chenes floodgate, north along Grand Bayou, up towards La Rose. The design will be complete later this year, and this will also be a mechanical dredging project. We do anticipate an additional 700,000 cubic yards of material is available. This will be stockpiled on the berm of the existing levee, and then we will let out another contract later to shape and grade the levee section up to a +15 elevation.
Last one.
That's the last
Let
one.
me just mention that the obvious gaps where we did not mention, the federal government will be coming in. We don't have that schedules, but they will be doing something along Reach A, Reach F, and J2. And the rest of them, we have already awarded bids. So that's why some of them is going to be under the federal umbrella. And then I think also the Corps is also going to be doing some levee work on the eastern tie-in in Lafourche Parish.
We dredging right now, okay, right? I just talked to Mitch, I thought we were dredging some material on K right now. I don't know, maybe fixing this store, I thought he said dredging right now. I misunderstood.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to the lock.
So this is moving to the next item. We have the Morganza to the Gulf Hurricane Protection Project, the Houma Navigation Canal Lock Complex Project Phase 2. This is known as TE 113. The project location, as you can see on the screen, it's the large star in the southern part of the parish. We currently have a 250-foot wide barge gate at this location, which we will be constructing an 800-foot wide, long, about 110-foot wide lock complex adjacent to it. So the floodgate's going to remain in service during the construction of the new lock complex. It's located in Terrebonne Parish. The local sponsor is TLCD, and we have a state sponsor in CPRA. Some of the project features on this, this is actually the proposed layout, which you see in the middle of the Home and Navigation Canal right here. This is the existing floodgate. And what we will be constructing is an 800-foot long by 110-foot wide lock complex. We have a Gulf side sector gate, which will not only provide part of the lock complex, but it's also going to provide flood protection for the system. It's a cast in place construction, so a TRS will be required for the construction of the Gulf side sector gate. It's a 110-foot wide navigational opening, has a minus 23-foot sill elevation and a top elevation of plus 23.5 feet, which is the ultimate elevation for the flood protection in this area. At the end of the 800 feet, we have the inland side sector gate. This will be a float-in monolith construction to be constructed off-site or near site, floated in place, and then piles driven through the structure and then grouted in place. This will also have a 110-foot wide navigational opening, minus 23-foot sill, but a top elevation of plus 10. Then we have 2 lock chamber walls that will make up the lock. These are going to be precast concrete wall piles, 2-foot square, driven adjacent to each other. And these will be supported by 36-inch steel plumb piles and 24-inch steel batter piles to support the system. We have a 2-acre operations area that's going to be constructed. Phase 1, which is already complete on this project, which was to do some initial dredging and to preload this operations area in anticipation of phase 2, so that the contractors could use this as a laydown area. But this will ultimately be the 2-acre operations area. And then we have new fendering system along the entire route, along with 4 protection dolphins. This is a rendering of what the proposed lock is going to look like. You can see on the left-hand side, that is the existing barge gate that's going to remain in service, and it's going to remain after the lock is complete also. Then you can see the front side sector gate with the rear side of inland side sector gate here. And then we do have, and this is obviously not all of the items for this project. However, these are the major items for this project. We do have some hydraulic dredging to the tune of about 110,000 cubic yards. The scour protection for this project is estimated to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 70,000 tons of riprap in various sizes. The Gulf side sector gate is going to require a TRS cofferdam for construction. We're estimating somewhere around 22,000 cubic yards of concrete for the Gulf side sector gate. We're going to have over 55,000 linear feet of steel pipe piles to support it. And we're going to have over 500 tons of steel in the sector gate. The inland side sector gate, or the floating monolith, we're looking at approximately 9,300 cubic yards of concrete, 25,000 linear feet of steel pipe piles, and then 330 tons of steel for the sector gate. The lock chamber, we're going to need 44,400 linear feet of those 2-foot square concrete piles, an additional 2,000 yards for the concrete cap, and then the support piles, which are the 36-inch and 24-inch plumb and batter piles. We're looking somewhere around 29,000 linear feet of those types. We do have 4 nose piers, which are either 36 feet in diameter or 52 foot in diameter. We do have about 3,200 linear feet of fender system. on this project. So as Mr. Dupre mentioned before, this will be the largest capital improvement project in Terrebonne Parish. And then finally, we have a schedule. We have phase 2. We anticipate having final approval in May of 2023. The anticipated bid advertisement is going to have the summer of 2023. We do anticipate several months for the bid advertisement to give the contractors ample time to review and digest and ask questions on this project. And currently the construction duration is set at 1,000 days, which is roughly 2.8 months, 2 years and 8 months, something like that. So that's pretty much what we have at this time. So Jacques, if you want to take it back over.
Yeah, thank you and Reggie for all the updates on the massive amount of work happening down there, South Tahoma. Y'all, just I wanted to point out on the agenda, I did have a mistake. I listed only Reach H1, as we just heard. It's a lot more all-encompassing than that. But y'all, we're gonna get Mr. Miles Garriott from Evans Graves to present on behalf of the Lafitte Area Independent Levy District now.
Hey everyone, let me get my screen.
And Miles, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, wonderful. Well, again, appreciate everyone joining the presentation today, and obviously for CPRA for hosting this event, and as well as their support of all these fantastic projects. My name is Miles Garriott. I work with Evans Graves Engineers. I serve as the program manager for the Lafitte Tidal Protection Program. The program encompasses 10 separate ring levees across 10 separate basins in the Lafitte, Barataria, and Crown Point areas. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 of those basins. They are the Lower Lafitte Basin, the Rosethorn Basin, Phase 2, Goose Bayou Basin, the Paylette Basin, and the Crown Point Basin. The Lower Lafitte Basin, which we'll discuss first, it is actually out for advertisement now. I know this is basically going over upcoming projects, and all of these projects are expected to be advertised before the end of the year. The Lower Lafitte project was recently advertised just within the past couple weeks, so that one is kind of piggybacking onto all of these as well. So for each individual basin, just be given a quick project overview, talk about, showcase some typical flood wall sections, some typical levee sections, gate details, then go over bid quantities and project schedule. And for these projects, I guess start off by saying that, the purposes of these ring levees essentially is to build increased tidal protection for the Lafitte area and surrounding areas. The intention is to build through either the raising of earthen levees, the building of new earthen levees, or the construction of sheet pile flood walls and eye walls. Flood protection up to elevation plus 7.5. Right now, there is one basin that has already been completed, and that is Fisher Basin here, Fisher School Basin, which is where the town hall is located. So that one has already been completed. There is one basin, phase 1 of the project is currently in progress, which is Rosethorn Basin. We'll talk about phase 2 here shortly, but essentially all of these areas are located about 15 miles south of downtown New Orleans, and bringing much needed increases to flood protection for these areas. Most of you all are probably familiar with these areas after Hurricane Ida. These communities were pretty affected by that. So just demonstrated the need for increased flood protection, which is luckily coming. Here's some photos just kind of showing you what's currently going on. Fisher School Basin, which is completed. You'll see there has sheet pile flood wall that was installed along the banks of Bayou Barataria with a concrete cap. Right now, Rosethorn Phase 1, which is currently in progress. There's a photo there of them driving sheet piles along Bayou Barataria. And then all of these projects have earthen levees in the back portions of each basin, and that's just a picture of a typical finished earthen levee, just to give you an idea of what these projects are looking like. So with that, let's jump into the Lower Lafitte project. As I mentioned, this one is currently out, was advertised in the Times-Picayune, and has a bid opening date of May 2nd. But the project location is there at the very bottom of the Lafitte area, right next to the Penn. It's funded via capital outlay, and it's going to include sheet pile concrete flood walls, existing levee modifications, as well as additional proposed levees. It's going to protect the area of roughly 280 acres, includes a total of 17,300 linear feet of flood protection, including 7,100 linear feet of flood wall, 7,300 linear feet of modified earthen levee, and 2,900 linear feet of new proposed levee. It also includes 5 gates, a 25-foot swing gate, or I should say 2 25-foot swing gates, a 20-foot roller gate, 16-foot swing gate, as well as opening system for LA 45 access, which is the main transportation corridor through all of these basins on the east side of Bayou Barataria. Here's some typical flood wall section. You can see there the sheet pile flood wall with a concrete cap. There's currently plastic fill there along for the embankment. Another typical levee section. Again, we're just raising the existing levees. There are existing levees there that are just being raised to elevation, to an ultimate elevation of 8. And there's also some new earthen levees that will be built, but for the most part, they are raising of existing levees. Here's just a swing gate profile view. In addition, again, there's a few swing gates planned for this one, as well as a roller gate. And here's a summary of bid quantities. In particular, obviously, a lot of permanent sheeting, PZC 13. We have about 133 square feet of PZC 13 that's going to be required for this project, along with roughly 40,000 cubic yards of embankment, as well as your structures there for the gates. As I mentioned, funding, this project is fully funded. It is permitted. It was advertised in April and has a bid opening of May 2nd, so coming up. The anticipated construction duration is 900 days. And just putting this in there for any contractors who are listening to this presentation, who are interested in possibly procuring the contract documents for the project. It is being designed by Evans Graves Engineers, and those documents can be obtained by Logan Betzer at the email address that I've provided in the slide. Moving on, we have Rosethorn Basin Phase 2. As I mentioned, Rosethorn Phase 1 is currently under construction. Phase 1 encompassed, moving ahead here, the bulkhead sheet pile flood wall along Bayou Barataria. That portion is currently under construction. It is actually going to be complete this year. The Phase 2 portion is on the other side of LA 45, which encompasses essentially all of the earthen flood wall portions there. The back levee, shall we say. So it's going to provide about 10,000 linear feet of flood protection, and will protect about 575 acres. It includes 9 floodgates along the entire project for phase 1, and then for phase 2, we'll add an additional 18,156 linear feet of flood protection. Again, this portion is mainly just earth and levee, raising the existing levees and adding a couple sections of new earth and levee to raise the elevation of the entire flood protection to 7.5. Here's just some typical earth and levee sections. And for bid quantities, here again, the majority of what phase 2 is going to encompass is earth and levee. So 138 cubic yards of embankment, 14,000 cubic yards of non-plastic embankment, as well as just some general excavation. And there is some steel flood wall plan for this. So you have 71,000 square feet of PVC 13 flood wall with concrete cap there, about 1,700 linear feet for the concrete there. This project is also funded, fully funded. It's in the final stages of permitting, and projected advertisement is next month, May 2023, with the anticipated construction duration of 600 days. So really, we're just waiting on the permit for this one, and then it's ready to roll. So definitely pay attention to the Times-Picayune for this to be advertised very soon. The next basin that we have coming up is Goose Bayou Tidal Basin. It will protect about 364 acres of the Goose Bayou Basin, which is just north of the Lower Lafitte Basin, which we covered first. It's going to include approximately 13,875 linear feet of flood protection. The existing back levee encompasses about 10,000 linear feet of that. So the existing back levee is actually, I think there's a few areas that will be raised, but it's actually the focus on Goose Bayou is the sheet pile flood wall along Bayou Barataria here. So here you have a typical bulkhead section. Again, concrete capped sheet pile flood wall. And then the summary of bid quantities. Once again, a lot of PVC 13 anticipated for this one, approximately 251,000 square feet of PVC 13, along with 4,372 linear feet of pre-stressed concrete pile. And then, of course, strong structural concrete, about 1,000 cubic yards for the concrete cap. This project is also fully funded. Permitting is in the final stages, and right now the projected advertisement is summer of 2023. So following Rosethorn Phase 2, which should be coming out in the next month or so, Goose Bayou will be coming shortly thereafter. So definitely pay attention, and we'll be advertised in the Times-Picayune. Construction duration of 500 days. And then moving on to the Paylette Levee Basin. Proposed flood protection of approximately 26,996 linear feet. Will include 3 floodgates and will protect an area of 483 acres. The Paylette Basin is on the western side of Bayou Barataria. So this is on the opposite side of the basins that we've covered to date. Here's just a couple typical levee sections and a bulkhead section. And then as far as bid quantities, again, a lot of embankment for the earthen levee portions, about 128,000 cubic yards. We have 215 square feet of PVC 13 sheet pile, 1,100 linear feet of pre-stressed concrete pile, as well as about 14,000 cubic yards of structural concrete, again, for the concrete caps on the bulkhead. This project is also funded. Permitting is in progress, and this one is expected to be advertised in fall of this year. An additional contract duration of 500 days. Lastly, we have the Crown Point Basin. This is a massive project, and so far it's the largest basin that will be constructed. It includes about 16.5 thousand linear feet of eye wall, 6,000 linear feet of earthen levee, and 4,000 linear feet of bulkhead. There are also a lot of gates on this one. There are 4 25-foot swing gates, 1 40-foot roller gate, 3 15-inch diameter sluice gates, 8 24-inch diameter knife gates, and 6 48-inch diameter knife gates planned for this project. It is 5 miles of new and improved flood protection. Here is a typical bulkhead section, again, raising or constructing new flood protection to elevation 7.5. And here's a typical levee section for the earthen levee portions. A couple of different eye wall typical sections. And again, summary of bid quantities. This has to go on. It's a massive project, so 2 slides here. Essentially, the biggest thing to pay attention to is almost 600,000 square feet of PVC 13 sheeting, some 165 linear feet of pre-stressed concrete pile, 12 inches by 12 inches, and then 2,600 linear feet of pre-stressed concrete pile, 14 inches by 14 inches. It is a large project. The good news, funding is secured, permitting is in progress, and this one is expected to be advertised towards the end of this year in a construction duration of 1,200 days. And that is all. I appreciate everybody listening. A lot of it is exciting work planned both for this year in Lafitte and in the years to come. There are several basins still under design and that will be coming out in the next couple of years. So definitely an area to pay attention to.
Thanks, Miles. Appreciate all the info. Y'all, I did have one more slot here to Nick Mathern. He's going to present on the upcoming South Lafourche projects we have. So we'll go ahead and roll right into that. Nick, if you want to share your screen and do a sound check, I'll let you know that we can see. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Jacques.
And I can hear you, by the way.
Right.
And I can see your slides.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Like Jacques said, my name is Nick Mathern. I'm the new general manager of the South Lafourche Levee District. I've taken over for the outgoing general manager Wendell Curall as of April 3rd. Wendell will still be active part-time as the executive secretary for those of you who've worked with Wendell in the past. So I get to pick his brain and tap into his 42 years of experience here before he moves on to other opportunities, probably later this year. So today we're going to look at 3 projects that we're planning to put out for bid over the next 12 months. 2 of those are going to be in Larose on the northern end of the Larose to Golden Meadow Hurricane Protection System that we manage here. And one of those projects will be on the southern end in Golden Meadow, all 3 on the east side of Bayou Lafourche. So the first project we'll highlight today is the Larose Flood Wall Vessel Impact Barrier, where our system runs along the GIWW in Larose, east of Bayou Lafourche. We have a flood wall structure along the residential area south of the GIWW with a top of wall elevation at 13 feet. When the Corps of Engineers constructed the original wall that we later added to and raised to the current elevation of 13 feet, the Corps included armoring along the south bank of the GIWW from the western end of the wall near Bayou Lafourche to just before the Highway 308 overpass that crosses the Intracoastal. With the heavy vessel traffic in the Intracoastal, we're looking to extend that protection along the wall by installing a series of alternating 7 and 12 pile clusters of timber piles along the remaining unprotected 2,500 feet of that flood wall. As an alternate bid, we're also working on a layout of a few mooring piles in Bayou Lafourche near the Ted Giscalaire floodgate in Larose, closer to the other end of this flood wall. We have to keep the gate closed in Larose much more often than we'd like to, so that we don't end up flooding the town of Golden Meadow. So while waiting for us to make our scheduled openings, we'll very often have several vessels waiting at the intersection of the Intracoastal and Bayou Lafourche, with really no place to safely moor on either the inside or the outside of the system. Like you can see in this drone photo that was taken just yesterday, actually. So we'd like to provide some designated spots for these vessels to wait in the bayou before they line up to file through the floodgate when it is finally able to be opened safely. We're hoping to be able to send this project out to bid in the fall winter timeframe later this year. The next project we'll talk about today is improvements that we're going to be making to the protected side berm along section F of the levee, which stretches from the GIWW right near the end of the vessel impact barrier we just went over, down towards Clovelly Farms and Cutoff. We'll be constructing earthen embankment along 24,000 linear feet, almost 25,000 linear feet of our levee. So around 4.7 miles of dirt work that'll all need to be contractor furnished and hauled in. The base bid for the project will include building up the berm from an average elevation of around -5 feet to a targeted elevation of -1.25 feet. Then alternate one of that project would add just over another ½ a foot of elevation to elevation -0.7. And then alternate two would add that remaining 0.7 feet of elevation to bring the berm up to sea level. And we're hoping to advertise this project in the fall winter timeframe of this year also. Then the last project we'll highlight today will be down on the southern end of our system in Golden Meadow. That southeast reach of the system is known as Section A East, and it runs along about 1,000-acre area of open water that's located just below a siphon system that works in tandem with pump station number 4 that drains the southeastern portion of the Larose to Golden Meadow system. That siphon allows us to lower the water level in Bayou Lafourche 0.2 feet over a 24-hour period. Now, currently, we have to manage not only the bayou, but also this 1,000-acre open water area. We are finalizing design right now of this project that we're calling the A East Bayou Water Retention Project. And it'll allow us to isolate this area when we need to run our siphon and have it operate more quickly to lower the water levels in the bayou so that we can prevent flooding in the town of Golden Meadow. We'll be constructing about 19,200 linear feet of retention levee alignment to a 3-foot elevation with a 10-foot white crown. And we'll have 2 tidal exchange structures that'll allow us to connect to or isolate from Bayou Lafourche as needed. And it'll also include construction of 2,300 linear feet of aggregate roadway to a 2-foot elevation. And that'll improve access for construction and for the future for us to be able to operate and maintain those structures as needed. The levee will be constructed with side borrow material. And there are a few pipelines in the area where we'll require mats across that corridor during construction, and we'll skip that corridor for excavation in that area. The 2 tidal exchange structures will consist of 3 36-inch culverts, 30 feet in length, with rip-wrap armoring, and those will go through the newly constructed tidal levee. And we'll have timber deck structures to access the sluice gates that'll allow us to isolate the retention area when we need to run the siphon to lower those water levels in Bayou Lafourche to prevent that flooding in the town of Golden Meadow. We're hoping to put this project out for bid by the end of this calendar year. So it was very quick, but those are our 3 targeted projects that we're looking to put out for bid by the end of the year: the Larose flood wall vessel impact barrier, the Section F berm improvements, and the A East Bayou water retention project. So definitely thanks to Jacques and the rest of CPRA for giving us a chance to put this on your radar, and look forward to getting to work. So Jacques, back to you.
All right, Nick, thank you for presenting that. A lot of interesting work down there too. Y'all, I just want to point out that we are now at the breakout session for any questions. I've not seen any in the chat yet, but if anyone does have any for the flood protection or risk reduction project update section of the agenda, you can go ahead and put them in. I'll be watching. I threw this out earlier before we got started, whenever all the presenters had assembled around 1:30, 1:40, that I do have the availability to go past the allotted time till 3:30 because it looks like we're a good bit behind. So if anyone does need to get out before that, completely understand, but I can probably plan to stay a little later. I'm looking here for some questions and I hadn't seen any yet. Maybe give another couple seconds before we switch over. And I got Mr. Eric Whitney from NRCS presenting on the BA 206 project next. So I guess, Eric, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen, I'll continue to monitor the chat.
All right, 1 second.
I can see, by the way, Eric, and still nothing in the chat, but maybe as more trickle in, we can address those at a later time. If you want to go ahead, man.
All right, thank you, Jacques. As Jacques mentioned, my name is Eric Whitney. I'm with USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service. I'm presenting the BA 206 Northeast Turtle Bay Marsh Creation and Critical Area Shoreline Protection Project. NRCS was the federal sponsor on this project, and CPRA was the local non-federal sponsor. And the design was completed by Trigon and Finstermaker. So quick outline, I'm going to go over basic information about the project, project schedule, project location, layout of the marsh creation areas and the borrow areas, and then finish it off with the summary of big quantities. So general project information, project is located in the Barataria Basin in Jefferson Parish. It's about 7 to 8 miles south of Lafitte. Funding source is through CPRA, Coastal Wetlands Planning, Protection, and Restoration Act, with NRCS as the federal sponsor, and it's a marsh creation project. So project schedule, we currently have phase 2 construction funding. We're updating our permits due to Hurricane Ida damages to the area. Land rights and servitude agreements are currently in progress. Proposed bid advertisement is projected to be in the fall or winter of 2023 or in the spring of 2024. And project solicitation will be advertised on sam.gov. And currently we're estimating about 346 days of construction time, and that includes 54 weather days. All right, so here's just another map showing the location of the project. Right there, it's about 7 to 8 miles south of Lafitte, east of the Harvey Cutoff Canal and west of the Barataria Bay Waterway, and just on the northern bay rim of Turtle Bay. So here's an overview of the project layout. We have our marsh creation areas in the marsh on the north side. And then we have our 2 borrow areas identified in Turtle Bay. Changes from last year. So MCA 3 was actually expanded to cover the shoreline loss due to Hurricane Ida. So that MCA 3 is the east or the westernmost marsh creation area. And then also MCA 6, which is on the southeast corner of the project. MCA 6 was shrunk due to the deepening of water near Turtle Bay due to impacts from Hurricane Ida. So here's just a bigger layout showing, or a more zoomed in layout showing the MCA 3. And then this is on the left showing the MCA 6. And then the right inset shows MCA 7, which is an adult. And that's on the northeastern portion of the project area. So here's some typical sections. This is Marsh Creation Area 4 on the top and 5S on the bottom. These are designed at a slurry elevation of a 2-foot elevation with a 1/2 foot upper tolerance. And then containment dikes are designed at a +3 foot elevation with a 1/2 foot upper tolerance. Here's some more typicals. This is MCA 5N, and this is at a slurry elevation of 2.5 feet and a containment dike elevation of 3.5 feet, both with a 1/2 foot upper tolerance. So here's our bar area layout. We have 2 bar areas identified in Turtle Bay. The bar area 1, which is the southern one, is the main bar area, used for the bulk of the project. There is a pipeline running through, so we have it kind of broken up with a 250-foot offset from either side of the pipeline. For like oil and gas pipeline crossing with our containment dike, we've incorporated a hay bale core in our containment dike, and also excavation would be avoided within 50 feet of the pipeline. Here's some typical sections for sheet pile gap closure installation. We're designing, or our design incorporates about 40 feet long steel sheet pile in these gap closures. And here's some typicals for earthen containment dike planting, vegetative plantings. We have plantings on the top of the containment dike, as well as on the bay side and marsh side toes. We have 2 rows on the bay side and 1 row on the marsh side. And then here's a summary of bid quantities. Most, I guess, notable line items are the marsh creation. We're estimating about 2.5 million cubic yards of hydraulic dredge material, and also about 47,000 linear feet of containment dikes. We have 2 adults for this project. Adult 1 is the vegetative plantings on the containment dikes, and then the adult 2 is the additional MCA 7. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I did see in the chat box, there was a question from a Mr. or Miss Cuvion asking about who was going to be the entity letting out the construction of those projects. For the purposes of this whole meeting, it varies depending upon whichever entity is presenting. In this case, this project here that was just presented by Eric Whitney of the USDA's NRCS, this will be let out by the federal government. As you'll see, the majority of the next presentations are going to be projects that are to be let out at the parish level. The preceding agenda section was pretty much comprised all of levy district construction procurement. So it really varies, and if interested, encourage you to look at the resources that Lacey Melanson had put in the chat box as well. So with that, we're going to go over to Denton Graham's presentation on the Lake Villa Pond Hydrologic Improvement Project. And this is being procured by Jefferson Parish.
All right, Jock, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you and I can see your slides.
All right. All right, thanks. As Jacques said, my name is Denton Graham. I'm a project manager with T. Baker Smith, and I'll be presenting on the Lake Villa Pond Hydrologic Improvements Project on behalf of Jefferson Parish. For a bit of an overview, this project is on the south shore of Lake Pontchartrain, about 1.5 miles west of the causeway. And currently, the pond is hydrologically connected to Lake Pontchartrain by 2 existing 60-inch culverts. But this connection is often lost depending on wind direction and water levels in the lake. So the parish is looking to improve that connection and eventually, with phase 2 of this project, turn this area into an educational and recreational area. This presentation is for the phase 1 hydrologic improvements to the site. And some of that will include pond excavation and grading, creation of a wetland platform, and those hydrologic connection improvements. Key project features include pond excavation and grading, as I mentioned. Creation of a wetland platform is what we're calling it. It's a small marsh area, and that will be created using material excavated to create the proposed pond to the west, along with the additional inlet for hydrologic connection to the suburban canal outfall channel. Another notable feature is the wetland protection area on site and the existing lakefront trail to the south of the site. Some existing infrastructure to be aware of are the 2 60-inch culverts. There's only about 1 foot of cover on those, so if any tracking across those, probably need some matting. The pedestrian trail along the south side of the project, as I mentioned, so some flagging signage will be necessary during construction. The site can be accessed by both land and water. For land access, that will be through a residential neighborhood, then over a federal levee and across a pedestrian trail. Some things to note when accessing through the residential neighborhood: there are some low branches, power lines, and potential weight restrictions to be aware of. Parts of the project site are within 300 feet of the federal levee, so core permitting will be required, and those protected wetlands that I mentioned will need to be fenced off. There is potential to encounter some concrete, stones, or foreign materials when excavating, but nothing was encountered during geotechnical explorations. So for a summary of estimated quantities, some major numbers include 19,000 cubic yards of excavation, with 5,400 yards of that to be reused on site for that wetland platform, about 3 acres of grading and 1 acre of marsh planning, and then about 300 square yards of geotextile and geofabric with 2 foot thick class 55 pound riprap. And then 1,000 feet of fencing around that protected wetland area. Oops. In terms of schedule, we anticipate the permit to be approved July of 2023, with plans and specs to follow in August. And then those plans will be advertised in October this year, with bids to follow in November. I mentioned earlier, this is a 2-phase project. Going out for bid will just be phase 1, but this is a preliminary architect's rendering of the site once phase 1 and 2 are completed. Some of the recreational improvements include a couple of educational pavilions and a walking area to see the site. So with that, I'll, I guess, hand it back over to you, Jacques.
All right, sounds good, Denton. Appreciate you presenting on behalf of that one. And thanks too to Jefferson with Michelle Gonzalez over there. Also being let out by Jefferson Parish, we've got the next project here, Upper Barataria Terracing. I'm going to kick it over to Ryan Fikes with Friesen Nichols. All right, Ryan, I can
All
see
right,
slides and I can hear you too. Go ahead.
perfect. Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Ryan Fikes. I'm with Breeze and Nichols. Again, representing Jefferson Parish, Michelle Gonzalez and her team. And I'm going to be talking about the recently funded Upper Barataria Terracing Project. If I can get this to advance. There we go. So a couple things here, project overview. To the right here, I just wanted to kind of start by looking kind of high level and showing this project in conjunction with all of the other stuff going around the Barataria Land Bridge. So our project, which is the project pointed out in purple there, is on the kind of southern end of the land bridge. In the lead on the project is Jefferson Parish government and Michelle Gonzalez's ecosystem and coastal management team. Breeze and Nichols is serving as the engineer and design team on the project. Jefferson Parish School Board is the landowner here on this, which is a new and unique partner for us. And the funding has been received through NIFWIF via their 2022 National Coastal Resilience Fund project slate. In total, this project is a 450-acre marsh restoration project achieved through 33,000 linear feet of earthen terraces from on-site material that will be stabilized with native veg. And we do already have our joint permit in hand for this project. So about 28 miles south of Lafitte, which you can see there towards the top of the screen here. Primary access route through this is via the Barataria Waterway, with a secondary access route through Bayou DuPont. That's really secondary just to try to avoid conflicts with all of the ongoing work associated with BA 207, which you can see right there. Also wanted to just mention, which I didn't on the previous slide, is we're within the immediate predicted fallout of the Barataria sediment diversion. So one of the ultimate goals on this project is to help accumulate sediment from that via these terraces. The school board, as I mentioned, is a unique partner for us. They are very supportive and working with us. They're looking forward to enhance hunting opportunities on their property, which they do via leasing. So we're excited to engage on that. A couple of things here. So the permit that we have in hand, we did the preliminary design to really maximize the footprint on the entirety of the school board property. So the permit that we have received is for what you see there on the lower left. So that's almost 50,000 linear feet of terraces and 530 acres of marsh habitat. The image there that you see called out here to the right is phase 1 of the project, which again, we have the NIFWIF funding in hand for now, which is the 33,000 linear feet on 450 acres of marsh. So ultimately, we hope to be able to have phase 2 to kind of complete this parcel out on the school board property. Just touching on some of the design features here. So as you can see, I think some of the key things to point out is, terrace side slopes of 6:1. Our crown width on this project is 15 feet with a top elevation of 3.5 feet. You can see that there on the right, we're kind of following a typical duckwing pattern that we'll have here. And the bottom right image is, though I know I can't expect you to read anything on there, but it's just showing some of the spacing and planting plans in place for both the intertidal and surface areas, focusing again on natives such as seashore paspalum and smooth cord grass. Now, again, all on-site material, nothing being brought in. Couple of just quantities here on key features. Main things, again, like we pointed out before, 33,000 linear feet of terraces. Approximate dredge volume here of on-site material is 875,000 cubic yards. Placement area of the terraces proper is a total of 70 acres with vegetative plantings on the crown of those, accomplishing about 12 acres of plantings for those marsh terraces. Project schedule. So again, we've already received our consistency determination back in 21 with the construction permit from the Corps through our JPA received in May of 2022. Our project period through NIFWIF started on March 1st, and we're hoping to have final engineering design on the project by August to take that out to bid through the parish in September of 2023. Estimated construction 120 days for this project with a 1-year monitoring program that will be led by Friesen Nichols and our team here in New Orleans. So that was quick. Again, tried to stick with the time frame here. I know these presentations are being recorded, so whenever that gets put out later, here's the point of contact for the 4 of us on this project team, and see if there's any questions. Thanks again, Jacques, for including us.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm gonna pull the agenda back up. Next item is Grand Bayou freshwater reintroduction. For that, we've got Laura Barnes with GIS presenting on behalf of Lafourche Parish.
All right, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Laura.
Let's see. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me fix that for you. Hang on.
Okay.
Let's see where you're at.
So while you're doing that, I'll just do a quick introduction. So as Jacques mentioned, my name is Laura Barnes. I am a senior project manager for GIS engineering. I'm honored to be presenting on behalf of Lafourche Parish government today on the Grand Bayou freshwater reintroduction project.
And Laura, you're a co-host. You should be able to share your screen. Let me know if not. All right, I can see you.
All right. Okay, great. All right, so that's just a quick view of the teaming partners that we have working on this project alongside us. Let's see if I can get it to advance. There we go. I just wanted to kind of highlight the history of this project. This has been a long time coming. I know that the Lafourche Parish is excited that we've gotten to this point. The project originated, I believe, back in 1996. It took on a number of different forms. At some point in 2002, it was downsized and deauthorized due to cost, but it was able to gain momentum again in 2014 when the parish developed their multi-year implementation plan for the Treasury Department as part of the Restore Act funding. In 2019, Lafourche Parish bonded out their Go Mesa revenue, and in 2020, they brought us on board to begin the design and get this project to construction. So the map that I have here just kind of gives you a location. So our project location that we're looking at south of LaRose, the GIWW, and Highway 24 in Lafourche Parish. So these images here are a great representation of the impacts that we're looking to benefit. So on the left is the gradient of the salinities. Now this was pre-IDA. I think after IDA, there were some readings taken that were probably 5 times the numbers that you see there. And then on the right, the modeling shows that we are going to be able to improve salinities by up to 5 parts per thousand. So the benefit area, Lafourche Parish and the Terrebonne Basin, it's anticipated that we're going to nourish about 68,000 acres of marsh. And we will be doing this at this point with a 1200 CFS pump station. So project overview, I'm just going to kind of touch on the features kind of going north to south. So we'll go over demolition. There's a boat launch, sheet pile cutoff wall, excavation, bridge and access road, bank line and scour protection, and then the pump station itself. So the first main feature, demolition. This is going to be a pump station that's within a slip, and we do need to open the conveyance channel in this area. So there are some concrete tank foundations, as well as buildings, boat sheds, and docks that will need to be removed. So like I said, beginning from the north, on the north side of Grand Bayou, we will be constructing a new boat launch. This is to allow boaters access to go under the Highway 24 bridge once we install the next feature, which is going to be a sheet pile cutoff wall. So this is going to help with avoid recirculation when we do open the conveyance channel and run the pumps. So this is going to be a steel sheet pile cutoff wall. It will have 2 sluice gates installed that can be operated when the tide is in our favor from the GIWW. It may be that we don't have to operate the pump station. And so in those instances, the sluice gates will be able to be opened and the natural flow will be able to travel down Grand Bayou. The top of well elevation is at 4.5, the tip elevation at -20, and it's about 230 linear feet of this sheet pile. The next feature, excavation. So again, to open up and allow flow for the pump station, there's a conveyance channel. The elevations will range from -8 to -10 with 3-to-1 slide slopes and a 40-foot wide base. The pump station itself, this will require a cofferdam. The elevation of the sump will be to a -16.25 with 3-to-1 slide slopes and 140-foot width. The overall excavation on this project is estimated at 150 to 200,000 cubic yards. To access the pump station, we will need to do an access bridge. So that's going to be a 20-foot wide, 60 linear foot precast concrete bridge that can support HS20 loads. And the access road itself is 1,350 linear feet of an aggregate roadway. It varies from 20 to 45 foot in width, depending on curvature. And the estimated aggregate amount is 1,000 cubic yards. Bank line stabilization and scour protection. So we are going to be utilizing 130-pound and 250-pound riprap. The key scour points that this will be included is at the Highway 24 bridge, the mouth of the conveyance channel, as well as the sump intake and discharge. We've estimated that quantity at 3,500 tons. The pump station itself. So just the operation of this pump station, it's important to remember, is different than a drainage pump station. It is for freshwater reintroduction only. So it's not going to run like we're traditionally used to our drainage pump stations running. It will have an automated trash screen, 140 linear feet to an elevation -12 up to +7. It will be supported with 18-inch square concrete piles with a 12-inch thick reinforced concrete sump slab, vinyl sheeting for the baffle walls at 2.5 to a -20 foot. And then a 12-inch thick concrete deck, the top of wall at elevation +7. It will be 10 48-inch electric submersible pumps capable of 120 CFS each and 200 horsepower. There will be an electrical building and an 80 kilowatt generator on top of the deck. We are in the preliminary stages right now. So here is a snapshot of the current quantities. I won't really go through those at this point. They are subject to change, but just so that you can take a look at those. And then our project schedule. So we will be submitting the preliminary project package actually next week, anticipating that final design should be complete in January of 2024. Hoping that the permitting process will be wrapped up in May of next year, and we should be advertising in June of next year. The construction duration we've estimated at 18 to 24 months.
Thanks, Laura.
And you're welcome.
Good job. back to the agenda here. Next one, I've got Davy Bro from the Greater Lafourche Port Commission, going to present on behalf of the Fouchon Beach Restoration Project. Davy, I can see you.
Okay, and thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to talk about our project here. My name is David Bro with the Greater Lafourche Port Commission. Angelette Design Group is working on this project with us. This was an existing project, actually in 1985 was originally built, and had some repairs done in 2013, and because of Zeta, Ida, and many other storms, we're looking at another phase of upgrade. Funding sources are Greater Lafourche Port Commission. We have Lafourche Parish government with some Go Mesa funds, state with CPRA funds, and Shell participating. This is one of those multi-projects that protects the beach, back barrier marsh, pipelines, tank farm equipment, port channels, as well as port infrastructure. And looking at the drawings, it's basically Fouchon Beach Restoration Project, restoring a segment of Fouchon Beach by filling approximately 300,000 cubic yards of sand material. And that material would be obtained from an offshore borrow site located about 2.5 nautical miles offshore. There will also be 10 new rock breakwaters that we're looking at constructed. And those are actually on the two ends to I guess, curtail the existing 12 barges and kind of slope them into the beach, because that's where most of the washout seems to be occurring. The project estimated cost is about $12 million. It's currently in the permit phase, and as soon as we get our permit, we're anticipating potentially sometime in the summer to go out for bid. An idea on quantity. I mentioned the 300,000 yards of sand. Our borrow site has approximately 1 million yards, because it'll take more than that fill quantity to pump it in place. And we also have about 6,758 cubic yards of bedding material on fabric underneath the 42,261 cubic yards of armored stone that you see here in the cross section. And that's it in a nutshell on our Fouchon Beach project. Thank you.
Thank you, Davey, and thanks big time for stepping in kind of at the last minute to present on that one too. I'm gonna go back to the agenda. Next one up is Aaron Rooney with HDR, gonna present on behalf of St. John the Baptist Parish for the Lake Pontchartrain Breakwater Project.
Great. All right. Let me see. All right. Can you see everything? Sounds good.
Yep, I can.
Great.
See you and hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. So this is the Lake Pontchartrain Shoreline Protection Project for St. John the Baptist Parish. To avoid confusion, I do want to note that there is currently a project out for bid also called Lake Pontchartrain Shoreline Protection Project. That one is through Tangipahoa Parish. So if you are interested in breakwaters, I recommend going to centralbidding.com, looking under Tangipahoa Parish government. That one has bids due in late May. So if you're interested, go check that out. There you go. All right, so a little bit about project background and location. So the purpose of this project is to help reduce erosion for areas outside of the levee system in St. John the Baptist Parish. As you can see on this map, we are on the Lake Pontchartrain shoreline. There's two different locations. They are both part of the same project. We're going to be talking about the North Reach up here. That is between Pass Manchac, and there are some existing Army Corps breakwaters. And the South Reach is between Fernier Landing and the St. Charles Parish boundary. The North Reach is about 1.2 miles of shoreline. South Reach is 1.9 miles of shoreline. So these two areas are a little bit different. They have some different bathymetry. The main thing I just wanted to point out here is the North Reach has significantly deeper existing grade. These are just some sample cross sections here, but just noting as we go through this design, they do have two different cross section designs. So plan view layout, this is the south reach. So we have Frenier Landing over here on the right, moving south to the border. Base bid will likely start with the south reach. We will hope to have the contractor start working at Frenier Landing and working south. There are 2 pipelines that will need to be avoided. The bulk of what you're seeing here is the optional access and flotation channels. On the south reach, we do expect that they will be necessary, but we're going to talk more about access and flotation on a different slide. So the south reach breakwater is a little bit simpler than the north reach. So we are looking at 250-pound gradation. On the bottom, we do have a geotextile fabric. We are not requiring the geotextile grid on the south reach. The layout varies a little bit, but roughly the center line is around the negative 1.5 foot NAVD contour. Yep. So for the north reach, it's a little bit different. So we do expect folks to start on the Army Corps breakwater side here on the southern end of it, moving towards past Manchac. There is one overhead utility coordination that will need to happen with Entergy. And then there's optional access and flotation channels shown here. We don't expect that they will be necessary on the north reach, but they have been permitted and will be allowed. The north reach breakwater has significantly different geotech and bathymetry than the south reach, so it does look quite different. We are having a 440-pound gradation stone and a lightweight aggregate core, as you can see here. We are also requiring excavation for a toe. So the excavation will happen here, and then that material will actually be placed behind the breakwater roughly here, and we would talk more about that during bidding. So like I mentioned, the lightweight aggregate core, so those will be lightweight aggregates stored in geotextile bags. And then for the geotextile, we are requiring geotextile composites, so both geotextile fabric and geotextile grid combined. So talking about the optional access and flotation channels, I do want to note as you're starting to look at this, these 2 figures are on different scales, so they're not apples to apples comparison. But do want to note that, like I mentioned before, probably the flotation will be necessary on the south reach, just due to the existing bathymetry. On the north reach, it's questionable if it's actually necessary to dredge for that. And then here's some cross sections of what is the maximum limits for the access and flotation channel dredging. As we said, those are optional. Here's preliminary quantities for the base bid and additives. As you can see here, the access and flotation channel will be subsidiary to MOB and DMOB. So we just kind of provided the maximum cubic yardage of dredging, basically, if the full limits were excavated. But like we said, we don't expect that to happen. Current project status, we are awaiting the permit. That should be almost any day now. After that, we should be out to bid maybe a few months after that. You can see the contract days on here for what we have shown so far. And that's it.
All right. Good job, Aaron. Next up, we've got Nick Saunier to present on behalf of Vermilion Parish with the upcoming work they've got going on out there. Go ahead and kick it over to Nick. And Nick, if you're out there, okay.
Good.
Thank you. I was gonna say I made someone named Nick in the participants list, the co-host. Looks like that's you. So go ahead, man.
You can see my screen.
Yep, all good. I can hear you too.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Nick Saunier. I'm with Sellers and Associates here to present the upcoming Vermilion Parish projects. The first project I'd like to talk about is the CPRA Parish Matching Program, Restore Freshwater Bayou Shoreline Protection Project. This project is sponsored by CPRA with Vermilion Parish Restore dollars. The project's located south of Intracoastal City along Freshwater Bayou Canal with a total permitted length of foreshore rock dike at 10,600 feet. The construction budget for this project is $4.5 million. Here's a typical section. Typical section for the project is a crown elevation of 3.2 feet, crown width of 4 feet, channel side slope of 4 to 1, and then the marsh side slope varies from 2 to 1 to 3 to 1, with a total length of 10,600 feet. The project access will be from the Gulf Intracoastal Waterway into Freshwater Bayou. Flotation access channels will be allowed on the project with a maximum width of 120 feet, an allowable bottom elevation of -5. And the dredge spoil material will be placed behind the rock dike. Due to budget concerns, we've kind of broken the project down into a base bid with 3 different alternates to allow us to change the footage covered based on the bids. We have a base bid that would cover 4,700 feet. Additive alternate number 1 would cover 700 feet. Alternate number 2 would cover an additional 2,300 feet. And alternate number 3 with an additional 3,000 feet. The project schedule, we're estimating to receive bids in July 2023. Notice to proceed in September, and the construction contract time is 180 calendar days. The bids will be advertised on the Abbeville Meridional and then also online in central bidding. The next project is the North Vermilion Bay Shoreline Protection Project. This is also sponsored by CPRA and Vermilion Parish with surplus funds. The project's located along Vermilion Bay, east of Intracoastal City, with a total of 20,250 feet of foreshore rock dike and a construction budget of $8.8 million. Here's a typical section with a 130-pound class rock, top elevation of +3, side slopes of 2 to 1, with a total length of 16,000 feet. There'll be no flotation access channels for this project. And here's just a summary of estimated quantities of the base bid, and then an additional alternate number 1. Project schedule estimated to receive bids in July 2023. Estimated notice to proceed in September with a contract time of 365 days. And this project will be advertised in the Abbeville Meridional and also online on central bidding. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Nick. And the last agenda item for the restoration project section, I've got Danny Dehan with CH Fenstermaker and Associates presenting on behalf of the Rockefeller Shoreline Project Extension. He can fill y'all in more on the parish who's letting out the project. I've got Danny there.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I should be sharing.
I can see you, Danny. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Jacques. Like you said, we're doing the Rockefeller Refuge Shoreline Stabilization for, it's also called ME35. This is an extension of 2 previous projects. You can kind of see them off to the right side of the screen there. That is ME37, which was came with from a different funding source, and then prior to that, there was a much larger ME18 project that started at Joseph's Harbor Canal. So this is a continuation on that project with restore funding from both Cameron Parish, Calcasieu Parish, and the state. It's about a half-mile of breakwater and include basin alternates to, like some of the other breakwater projects you saw, to maximize the protection you can get with the dollars available. So just in an effort to utilize all the funding available. And like Aaron's project, it's a encapsulated lightweight aggregate core with a riprap armor stone on top of it. It's due to the poor soils out here. We've also got access dredging included, but on the previous iterations that was not required. So we do not expect it on this one either. We're at 95% design right now, right around that. So we're expecting a June bid with an August, September construction start. And here's the cross section of that, of the breakwaters with the lightweight aggregate core and the riprap armor stone on top of it. We've also got some bedding stone on the shore side and the protected side, where the riprap is not on top of the lightweight aggregate core. So here's our base bid quantities, about 28,000 tons of stone, or 32,000 when you include the bedding stone as well, and 6,000 cubic yards of lightweight aggregate. Well, one unique thing that we got approached by NRCS recently. They are designing a project to the north of us, and it's a marsh creation project. And their proposed pipeline corridor passes directly through one of our breakwaters. And I was looking to get input from some of the contractors on the call here to see what might be the best options to have these projects coexist. This project will be completed before theirs, but if there's anything we can do with ME35 to allow for the future access of this dredge pipeline. They don't want to leave a gap in this section because it is a critical part of the shoreline, because you've got Price Lake Road there. And if that area were to breach through, it would allow saltwater a direct access route into the refuge. So some of the ideas we contemplated was, design a gap to be put in there for future use. What size gap would be needed? Because we may elect to get some lightweight aggregate and stage it to replace what is taken out, or would putting in a culvert through the breakwater assist in any way. So we're looking for y'all's input on that. And NRCS has recently said that they may elect to come from the north with all the shore pipe that's going in. They've got about 15,000 feet of offshore pipe and then 22,000 feet of shore pipe. That concludes my presentation. I'll give it back to Jacques, and I look forward to seeing anybody's input or comments on how we can have these projects coexist.
Good deal, Danny. Thank you. All right, so we are now at the breakout question item for the what I grouped together as the restoration projects. I'll be monitoring the chat box, and we are 8 minutes over the originally intended end time. Y'all, for what it's worth, I did get word that agenda item 4C, John Helmers is not available. So that one will be taken off the agenda. And we do have, I guess, 2 more presentations, one from Ducks Unlimited and one from Wes Jacobs with HDR for the Mermentau Basin project down there. I'll continue to monitor the chat and we can kind of go ahead and roll through and kick it over to Brad. In the event of any chat questions, I will try and answer them as they come up. All right, Brad, I can see you.
Okay. See the
And
slides?
And I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right. I'm Brad Lambert. I'm a regional engineer for Ducks Unlimited out of our South Louisiana field office. Thanks, Jock, for inviting us to do this. So these contractors can be aware of some of the projects we have coming up. So I'll be brief since I know we're over. My presentation is going to include 8 of our quote unquote larger projects coming up within the next several months. Those would be relatively smaller than some of these larger, a lot smaller than some of these larger projects that have been presented previously. All of these will be located within South Louisiana, all marine type construction, and they're either ongoing with design and or design complete and waiting on permitting. Okay, so we'll present on 3 structures / embankment, one at Marsh Island, White Lake, and one in Rockefeller. We have 1 ridge restoration project, and we have 3 large earthen terraces projects coming up. So part of our structures project, we actually just got word from LDWF that they wanted us to go ahead and move forward with design on this. We'd kind of been sitting on it because this structure was damaged somewhat during Hurricane Delta, I believe. So they were going the FEMA route, but ultimately we had wrote a grant years previous for the structure. So it is funded, it is permitted. It's going to be replacing this in-kind double wall sheet pile structure with 8 water control structures within it. Like I said, it's going to be a double wall sheet pile structure. So it'll be several thousand square foot of sheet piling, type to be determined. It's 8 48-inch barrels. We might go back in with smooth wall HDP, not sure yet. And it'll have 8 flap gates integrated with it and 8 aluminum stop log weir type structures. And anticipating probably starting design this summer, finishing it late fall, and bidding it at the end of this year with probably about a 210-day contract associated with it. And just FYI, it's at the very southern end of Marsh Island. You'll go through Bird Island Bayou, go all the way down. So it'll be totally marine-based operation. Another real simple one is Unit 2 levee for White Lake WCA. It's getting chewed up pretty bad. It's exposed to White Lake wave action from White Lake wave action. So we're proposing just rebuilding the levee with imported fill, about 1,000 cubic yards or so of imported fill, and then armoring the slopes with about 1,000 tons of 55-pound class riprap. And that we're just waiting on permit on that one. It's fully designed, fully funded, just waiting on permit, which anticipate that getting that permit this summer. So we are part of a larger group effort with Fence to Maker and HDR and a couple other folks. This is a Mermentau Basin, the Mermentau Watershed Basin flood relief project. It incorporates some drainage improvements through Highway 82, repairing east end locks on Rockefeller, and we're going to be installing 4 of these concrete T-panel with splashboard riser integrated structures. We're installing 4 of these structures on Rockefeller, all the way from the west end all the way to the east end. Basically, it's a concrete T-panel, timber pile supported. When it's all said and done, it'll be probably 30 concrete T-panels, about 12,000 linear foot of 12-inch timber piling, somewhere around 20,000 square feet of steel sheet piling, and total contract duration will be about 480 days. And we'll probably be looking to bid that at the end of this year. That's in design currently. I think Wes next on what HDR is going to talk about these 10 lock projects. So I'll save that for him. And this is also a community development block grant funded project. Ridge restoration, we are currently in permitting on that one. We're hoping to bid this one out the end of this year, beginning of next year. It's about 10 miles of ridge restoration along Karen Crow Bayou, which is, you can see adjacent just west of Lake Decad. Basically pulling out of the Karen Crow Bayou, spoil out of the Karen Crow Bayou, and rebuilding the existing ridge. So we're into our terrace project. We have one terrace project right now that is really close. This is our Port Fouchon terrace project, really close to being permitted. We're about 95% design on that. It incorporates 66,600, about 50 linear feet of terraces. We have one area south of Highway 1, and then another area just north of that area. We've also already procured a bunch of living shoreline modules, about 1,200 of them. So the contractor who's awarded this job, we're responsible from picking these up from the yard they're currently stored at in Amelia and bringing them down to the site and installing them on the slopes of the terraces. This will probably be a combination of marsh excavators and barge mounted excavators as well, because the area south of Highway 1 is probably a little deeper than a marsh excavator can handle whenever we're going to have to be getting this out kind of higher water levels. Another terrace project, Harry Berg Terraces, just southwest of Dulac. 70,000 feet of terraces, typical duckwing pattern, and majority of this should be able to do the entire project with marsh excavators. And this is our typical, about 2 feet to 18 inches above marsh elevation, finish grade, and smooth core grass planted on the slopes after we finish shaping them. And another project go back. The previous project we anticipate bidding after the peak hurricane season, so kind of into September, early October of this year. Same bid time for this one, which is a Braddock Johnson project, which is located just northwest of Port Sulphur, down in Plaquemine Parish. Again, just a standard terrace job, about 86,000 linear feet of terraces. And this will also be a combination of marsh excavator and barge mounted excavator equipment. And that is about all I have. I just want to remind y'all that we have a private bidders list. So if you need information to get on it, my email's on this slide. And we generally post all of our jobs on Central Bidding. So be on the lookout for those.
All right, appreciate it, Brad. Okay. So last but not least, I want to get Wes Jacobs with HDR to present on the Mermentau Basin Inundation Relief Project.
Thanks, Jock. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I'm not sure exactly which screen you're seeing, but we'll go ahead and roll on. So thanks, Jock, for the opportunity. My name is Wes Jacobs. I lead our Baton Rouge HDR office, and
Hey,
I'll be
Wes.
serving as. Yep.
Sorry to cut you off. You were showing, what I can see anyway, is just Wes Jacobs.
Okay. Let me see here. Switch settings. Any better?
I'm seeing the same thing.
Okay, let me try. Share.
All right, looks like something's happening. Yeah, got you now. Thank you.
All right, cool. Sorry about that. I'll be serving as the design lead for this project. So this is for the as Brad and others were saying, this is another faction of the Mermentau Basin Inundation Relief Project, and this is to rehabilitate the east end lock structure. And we're going to advance. All right. So the project location is noted, Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge. So you've got Kaplan, and then you've got Pecan Island. So it's kind of right in the middle of the bottom portion of that screen there. And then we've got a aerial view of the overhead lock right here. It's a 40-foot opening lock, and the gate bay walls are roughly 15 feet tall. The existing sector gate was built between 1959 and 1960. Got a couple of site photos here. Its main function is really for water control and salinity control. It's not necessarily a flood control type structure because there's not a hard line of protection there, but it's mainly going to be used so we can safely pass flow, after a hurricane, be able to let water out and then be able to kind of control salinity otherwise. So the steel sector gates is the main portion of the scope of this, where we're going to be pulling the old gates. As you can see in this photo here, they're pretty dilapidated. That it's been a long time, been beaten up pretty bad through all the different storms. It's got a lot of concrete spalling and cracking on the gate bay walls. It's got it's currently moved in and out of place with a hydraulic cylinder machinery. It has an elevated control house right now with an HPU there, and does have shore power, commercial power. It was rehabilitated, I believe, in the late 80s. I believe they pulled the gates at that point, maybe recoated them and did some other control house modifications. And the overall structure is supported on timber piles. So currently we have completed conceptual design. So we're scoped to do concept, preliminary, and final. We did complete the concept design and develop some alternatives. We developed 3. They're all very close, but they kind of use different derivatives of construction methods. Alternative A was new steel sector gates, but employing the use of a full cofferdam to dewater the entire structure, a new mechanical system, and then a new electrical system, including an elevated backup generator. Alternative B was very similar to that, but using the dewatering needles only, so not dewatering the entire structure. So the amount of concrete rehab you could do would be a little more limited there. Again, a new mechanical system and a new electrical system, but no backup generator. And then finally, alternative C, same deal, new sector gates, no cofferdam, just dewatering needles, and essentially looking at maybe just using a portable HPU to power the structure, kind of more of a belt and suspenders approach on that. Got a couple of views here of the concept sector gates that we developed here. We used just kind of limited load cases during concept design, of course, using Corps of Engineers criteria. And we also developed a kind of a weighted matrix, decision matrix tool based on the alternatives, and looked at things like long-term viability, conceptual construction costs, durations, O&M, and constructability. And ultimately, what fell out of that alternative evaluation was that alternative B was the most favorable, and that is what we are moving forward with. We are now just starting preliminary design. We're about a month in, or a little less than a month in. So we are going to be looking at expanded load cases. We're going to begin to incorporate wave loads, hydrodynamic loads, and incorporating vessel impact. Again, using the new Corps of Engineers hydraulic steel structures manual as overall guidance, and we will be developing concrete repair details and corner armoring details to really repair those areas that have been damaged. The whole idea is that we're going to pull the gates and we're going to have to recast the hinge portion of the top of the gate bay walls, and then the plan is to reuse the pintle base anchorage and go back with something very similar. So very, very similar geometry. We're not raising the structure, going back exactly pretty much with what's there, which is more of a modern design. Here's just a kind of a blow-up detail we're looking at there. This old hinge at the top has got a lot of issues in and around there. So we're going to basically have to core drill through the gate bay walls and put an anchorage on the back side of this to be able to mount this overall hinge. And then we would use more of a modern type of pintle ball and housing assembly here. You can kind of see a couple of conceptual renderings that we had done here, but we will be reusing the existing anchorage that's down on the base and go back with a new anchorage plate and pintle system. Design schedule, it's a 6-month design schedule. So we got notice to proceed in March. So that'll put us about September, which would put a construction bid roughly sometime in the 4th quarter of this year. Again, we're very, very early in the design stage. So we got about got about 27 tons or 54,000 pounds of steel for the 2 sector gates, and that is the largest quantity that we've got. And the rest of it is going to be concrete surface repair. We're not driving any more piles. We're not extending the monoliths at all. It's essentially just replacing the sector gates, the mechanical and the electrical with that. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Jacques.
All right, thanks, Wes. All right. Checking the agenda one more time with that. That concludes all of the project presentations. I have been looking at the chat box and hadn't seen anything yet. We are over time. What I'm gonna do is direct everyone who's still here and is interested and still asking any questions. What you can do is you can send it to me. I can connect you with the proper person, the proper technical lead to field that question if you still have one. And without further ado, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody go along with their day. And yes, I appreciate everyone attending and presenting and all the behind the scenes coordination. Do stay tuned for the rest of the Coastal Industry Week events that we have coming up, with the next item being a virtual webinar series tomorrow at noon. It's Leanne Sharp, who's a scientist with CPRA's Lafayette Regional Office, presenting on the CRIMS program. Thanks, Tyler. All right, y'all. Yeah, no problem. Thank all y'all. Seriously, I'll let everybody go. And stay tuned too for a recording of this as well as yesterday's session. Y'all have a good one.